to discover about that division. Pittsburgh gets the win, and after what we've seen through 2 weeks, guys, what do you make of this team? Let's just focus on Pittsburgh at 1-1.
I bought into the hype this summer hard.
Yes, you did.
We did. We all did.
Yeah.
Pickett, to me, looked like he was, Marino out there this summer. And you've watched the preseason football, and you know it. You know that's the Falcons' backups that he's doing this against. Mm-hmm. And you know that's Buffalo's backup. You know it. You're like, I get it. And yet, you're like, well, that's the starting offense. They're in a rhythm. Najee looks fresh. Jalen Warren's picking up blitzes. We got Pickens. You got Deontay Johnson. The offense almost cost them the game last night. The offense was terrible last night. And I don't know if you can win games in this AFC just based on defense. You can win games against Cleveland because their offense was even worse and they lost their best player. Ford runs one big monster run, and then you look at the stats, you're like, well, he had 40 yards. No. Ford had 0 yards except the one monster run.
Yeah.
The Steelers had -7 yards in the fourth quarter and won the football game, and they had 2 defensive touchdowns and just escaped, and they were at home. So, Matt Canada's going to get a lot of the blame, but this is from top to bottom. The offensive line couldn't protect Pickett. It was 3rd and 8 every single time. I got to be real here. As much as we love celebrating a win, if you're the Steelers and you're their fans, the offense can't look like this in year 2 of Kenny Pickett. It can't. This is a guy who was ascending at the end of the season, had this great summer, this great preseason. I understand Cleveland's defense is good. I understand the 49ers defense is good. Yeah. I'm willing to say, let's give it a couple weeks before we say the offense needs to go and the offensive coordinator needs to be fired. But that's on national TV for the second straight week, and the offense is sputtering. They're 1-1. They deserve to be 1-1. It's a team game. But that offense is going to hold them back. You can't beat teams with quarterbacks like, Mahomes and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow in these big spots if your defense is going to have to carry you 99% of the way.
That offense was rough last night. When you say -7 yards in the fourth quarter and you still won the game, to me, the silver lining is, as you look across their division, the Bengals offense has looked really bad. You just talked about the Browns offense, which you said was worse than Pittsburgh's. They struggled mightily. The Ravens in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson, they have looked pretty good throughout. So if you're the Steelers, and we always say it, stack wins. When you go in, they're going into this morning, you're watching the film. When you have the W next to your name, it's a lot easier to watch the film of a terrible performance opposed to when you lose that game. So for the Steelers, yes, it hasn't been pretty. But I think on the other side of it, you watched your defense single-handedly win a game. And this isn't a defense that was just dominant in week 1 where it's just carried over. It went against the 49ers, and McCaffrey was running all over the place, and it wasn't pretty. So you see them come back a week later, Monday Night Football, in prime time, and you have Highsmith and Watt both scoring touchdowns, and it was a sack party. Larry Ogunjobi joined, Marcus Golden joined. It wasn't just Watt and Highsmith that had big performances. The rest of the D-line was getting after him, too. You're seeing a forced fumble here by Holcomb. So it was everybody joining in on the party. So for the Steelers, yes, our offense has been awful. But if the defense can at least put together some performances like this, maybe they can catch up a little bit. But I don't know. I watched Pickens and Pickett in the preseason, and I was just like, this is going to be unbelievable this year. Drafted George Pickens. I was like, we're going to have a hell of a year from these two guys. He did have a good performance from my team last night. But it's just, you're wondering, what's the missing piece? They have the guys there. I know Deontay Johnson's injured, but what is missing that this offense just has looked this bad so far?
All right, listen, they have a lot of good players on offense. They got 2 guys who pop. And I mean, you watch them, you're like, oh, that guy's a guy. It's George Pickens, obviously, and they got him involved. It took a while, though. Why can't they do the thing with him where you see with other receivers where they're getting him touches early?
Right away.
I have to shout out our guy, John Hine from the Howard Stern Show, who's a huge Steelers fan. He's tweeting, he's like, is George Pickens alive? Is he in this game? And then they throw it to him, and it's just a lightning strike. That is different from anybody else in the huddle. You got to get Pickens more involved, especially if you're suspicious that he might tune out psychologically a little bit, which is to be determined, but he didn't look that thrilled during the Niners game. The second thing is a little bit more iffy. The other guy who pops in the huddle is Jalen Warren. And the problem is he's not often in the huddle. Jalen Warren is an undrafted guy, and he's playing behind a guy, Najee Harris, who is very highly drafted. We've seen enough at this point. Najee is a little bit of a plotter. He's a burst. He's an angry runner. We love all that stuff. This guy has juice every time he gets in the game. You're like, well, who is that? And there's a long history of backup guys who are late drafted, who clearly have more burst than the high draft pick guy in front of them. I don't even need to list them. If you watch football, you know. I would really like to see Jalen Warren on the field a lot more, or maybe first and second, because I feel like they move the ball totally differently when he's in. And at this point, it's an ugly 1-1, and they're lucky to be 1-1. Their defense saved them.
Yeah.
I would like a lot more touches for Jalen Warren and some early touches for George Pickens, and I think he can do that.
It's true. In the other game last night, I was listening, I think Dan Orlovsky was in the booth. He made a comment, and it was pertaining to Bryce Young, but I actually think it applies to the Steelers here. You just can't win in the NFL without explosive plays. And the Steelers, it just doesn't feel like they're going for that 1 every 10 plays instead of 1 every 3. So if you're looking at it, you see Pat Freiermuth catch a ball last night, and the stadium goes nuts. Is Matt Canada just not looking at like the 10-plus yard plays often enough, or he just thinks plotting down the field is the tactical advantage?
I think somewhat it's about, to your point, Kyle, of getting the ball in your playmaker's hands. So there's going to be opportunities where you chuck one up deep because you have George Pickens one-on-one with the DB. Then there's going to be other times where we're just throwing a screen out to George Pickens because he's maybe one of our best players, and it could be a 5-yard pass, but he has the ability to take it 60. So to your point with Jalen Warren, there's certain guys that you look at and you're like, he has it. Now, how do we find a way to get Bijan Robinson with Atlanta, Arthur Smith? How do I find ways, whether it's a screen out, whether it's a handoff, to get the ball in my playmakers' hands and just let them do the rest?
I think it's a really good question because the lazy analysis is Steelers football, 3 hours in a cloud of dust, give it to Najee. That's a Steeler. That's nonsense, guys. We're in 2023. Let's throw this thing around a little bit. Let's make big plays. Let's get the guys who can.
The clear comparison is last year in Dallas when Ezekiel Elliott is getting the bulk of the carries.
That's exactly it.
And then you've got Tony Pollard, who every
he's
time he touches the
definitely
ball,
better.
Like, he's electric.
Get him in.
And in the offseason, they made that move. Real quick, TJ Watt.
No.
Playoff game against the Chiefs. First play of the game, I remember watching it. Interception, touchdown.
Postseason. So the statistic I was citing was regular season. I was saying earlier in the show, it's his first career touchdown.
Peter, you were uneasy about that.
I
when
knew
you
it.
heard
I remember it. It was against the Chiefs in Arrowhead.
You feel better?
Yeah, the stats guys are great, except you got to note that.
Regular season.
I feel worse.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Take that from you.
Clarification is key. It's a love language. It's Peter Schrager's love language.